I don't know about you, but that video always gives me chills. Good morning. Welcome to The Point. My name is Sarah Martin, and I'm the youth director here, and I am honored, humbled, and scared to death to talk to you. God's got this, because I'll tell you, I am not brave enough on myself to tell you the things that I'm going to tell you today. So all thanks to God. For those of you that don't know me, I am married to the dashingly handsome fireman, Brandon Martin. If you've seen the mustache, you've seen him. Yeah, that guy up there. Yeah. We've been married for 6 years, and together we have 3 kids. We have Emily, who is 16, Shelby, who is 12, and the ever ferocious Bane James Martin, who is 7. I'm sure you have seen that little guy running around with all the other little guys that belong to this church and having just the time of their lives, and I couldn't be happier about how comfortable my kids are in this space. So, my oldest is 16, my husband and I have been married for 6 years. That doesn't add up. To the marriage, I brought 2 awesome girls, and he brought a cat. A cat. In all seriousness, Brandon brings to our marriage something that was lacking from the 3 of us girls doing life together. He brings a wholeness and just a gift that I am so blessed to have in a partner, someone that came alongside me and is raising children that aren't biologically his, but are his. So I tolerate the cat. As the youth director here, I oversee the Bridge and the Alt. The Bridge is our 5th and 6th graders who are meeting right at this moment back in the Bridge room, and the Alt is our youth group. That is short. We call it the Alternative. And those kids are here in this room this morning. That some of them are in the reserve seating over here. I see some over here. I see some back there. Hey, guys. We get to do youth group during the school year every Wednesday night, and we just have a great time with these kids. And then over the summer, we get to do some really fun activities like Shannon was talking about. Guys, next week after service, we're going to the carnival. Bring some money. You don't need your parents, but they need to pick you up at 2. Okay? All right. Youth ministry, whew, that's weird to say, because a couple years ago, I heard God clearly saying, Sarah, I call you to ministry. And I was like, oh, awesome, hospitality, I can do that. Women's ministry, that sounds awesome. Okay, God, that's what I want. Then Tim called, and he said, youth ministry, and I literally said he was nuts. I was like, you're nuts, I don't do that. No way, He's like, no, I think you should think about it. Brandon and I talked, we prayed, and I just felt this fire that I didn't even know existed inside of me ignite with excitement to get to do this. So here we are, doing this. Not only do I get to work with some amazingly awesome kids, I get to work with some amazingly awesome people who consistently love, encourage, and speak truth into my life, and that, my friends, is a blessing. A really cool and fun fact is Ron Adair, who spoke to you a couple weeks ago. That's our intern boy that we lovingly call him, who is just doing awesome work here in the church. We work right side by side together. Ron and I's story didn't start just a year ago when I became into this position. Our story actually went back 25 years ago. 25 years ago, I was 15 and best friends with his daughter, and I was a mess. I was a messy teen, and him and his wife, Patty, got a front row view of some of my mess. To then fast forward 25 years, and together, him and I are leading our youth, and goodness, God is so good. God is so good. So let's get to it. What's the point? The point exists to welcome the unchurched to become fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ, pointing people to God, Jesus, and community. We've heard Ron talk about community, Tom talked to us about the Great Commission, and Shannon spoke last week on a place to belong, and I am honored to share with you the importance in investing in our youth. Take a moment. Think back to when you were a kid, elementary school, grade school. What are some memories you have? Good memories, some are bad memories, but there's things that stick with us, even now as adults, that we can remember clearly interactions that happened when we were a kid. All these memories, the good and the bad, all these memories are these things that shaped who we are. The investment in the people shaped who we are today. The Bible says in Proverbs 22:6, start children off on the way to go, on the way they should go. And even when they are old, they will not turn from it. Teaching children about God, about Jesus, about love, grace, acceptance, understanding, all these things isn't just a parent's job, but it's also the church's job. The church isn't just a place we go to. The church is a place that we belong to, a family that we're a part of. And it is our job as a whole to love, teach, and invest in these kids, the easy ones and the hard ones. I'm going to share my story. My story is the best story I know of how people that love God invested in me and built a foundation, a solid, strong foundation. I grew up in the Methodist Church just a few miles down the road, and I will preface, I probably will cry, and it's okay. So I grew up in a Methodist church a few miles down the road from here. I attended right out the womb until I went to high school. I went with my mom, my stepdad, my grandparents, and my younger brother, Alex. To date, my grandma Hanky is the strongest Christian I have ever seen. Every morning, she woke up and said this: "This is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it." And she was, always. She prayed like no one I have ever known prays, all the time. And it wasn't even just a made-up thing. She wrote these things down, and we can still look at them now, the people she prayed for and the things she did and the verses she read. She was such an example and a pillar for me. But it was more than just my parents and this really strong leader in my grandma. It was so many interactions of the people in my church that still, I'm going to recall them to you today because they are that important. One Christmas, I was at the church with my family setting up Christmas decorations, and there was an older gentleman, and I wish I remembered his name, because he took a mere 2 minutes to teach me lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. Moments he took for just me. And I remember that every time. Currently now, when I turn the hose on every night to water my flowers, oh yeah, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, got it. And it brings me right back to that moment of being in the church, in that space that I was loved. It was the Sunday school teachers that showed up every week for me, that answered my questions, that dealt with me because I wasn't easy. But they consistently showed up and were there teaching me, guiding me, building this foundation, investing their time. One Christmas, I got to be Mary in the Nativity story, and it was like the biggest deal of my life. I can remember being one of those tiny little angels in the little robe and the tinsel thing on my head that I can't think of at the moment. And I was just standing there thinking like, oh my gosh, how cool would it be to be Mary? And then I got to be Mary. And the feelings and honor, still, I feel it now. It was a mission trip that I went on when I was 18, the summer before I went away to college. I went with a group of adults and my brother to this place called the Henderson Settlement in the Appalachian Mountains. It was on that trip that I was packed with other people and tools and equipment and witnessed some of the greatest poverty I have ever seen in my life. But it was those people on that trip that took me alongside and didn't reprimand me because I wasn't painting very well, but showed me how to paint. It was an evening that we were all together recalling the events of our trip, that we were sitting around in the circle and praying and And I can't remember all the details, but I remember that my brother, who at the time was 14, we broke down and cried with each other and hugged each other. And I can tell you without a doubt, that was the moment that we became friends. We hated each other. I was 18, he was 14. I was doing a lot of stupid stuff. He knew it. He's a cop, he knows these things. And in this moment, in this space, with the church family that loved us, we could be in that space. And our relationship has continued to grow stronger every passing year. It was the woman in the choir that bought me this lotion because every week I was like, oh, you smell so good. And one day she showed up with this bottle of strawberries and champagne Victoria's Secret lotion, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. I get to smell like this now. And anytime I smell that smell, I am immediately back in that church room, putting on that robe, listening to these seasoned adults and singing hymns and praying. It was the youth leaders that mentored and guided me, that coordinated ski trips and Halloween parties and camping trips, even though I loathe camping. It was coffee dates and doing my hair for prom. All of these things that were a culmination of all people. It was big interactions, small interactions, moments, years, all these things are what built a strong foundation. Now my story gets a little messy. At about 16, I started dating a boy. This boy wasn't the right fit for me, but I couldn't see that. I was 16. My parents weren't supportive of the relationship, but I was 16 and I knew everything. So I didn't listen to my parents' advice, and I continued on this relationship for 6 years. From the time I was 16 to 22, I led a double life. That brought a lot of things. It also brought abuse that I hid. This relationship was terribly abusive. All abusive. Physically abusive, mentally abusive, and sexually abusive. The relationship ended, and thankfully I survived, but not without some hardy scars from that abuse. A few short months later, I found myself in another relationship that ended in marriage and the creation of 2 beautiful children. But that also left me depleted because that marriage was full of mental abuse. So at the age of 29, that marriage was over, and even though I was happy to be free, I was depleted, empty, vulnerable, weak. I wanted to fill my love tank, so I became reckless. That sounds normal. I began filling that empty love tank with alcohol, a lot of alcohol, and sex. It was a roughly 2-year time frame where I let my selfish desires for love control me. I lost a lot in that time. I lost respect for my employees and my coworkers and my superiors. I lost friendships because I was a stupid, angry drunk who liked to hit. I lost relationships with family members, but I'm still trying to mend. And I lost a life. I lost the life of my own child, whose life I decided to end before they even had a chance to live. There was storm after storm after storm that I was allowing. I was allowing the enemy in. However, God was standing strong and firm and right next to me. Even though I made poor decisions, he was still there. He didn't leave me. It was like I was walking this tightrope, and I wasn't good at it. And I kept falling, and he was there with this net and kept catching me and putting me back up. But I couldn't even see it. I couldn't even recognize what was happening because I was still so wound up. But I know that I never fell far enough because I had a foundation that was built in me, that even though my upper part of my body wasn't standing straight, my feet were firm, and there was a foundation under them. I just needed to find it again. I was finally able to surrender. God gave me Brandon and brought into my life an unconditional love to show me that not only can that be here, but in God. God's love is unconditional. And all those things, he didn't care. He didn't care how many times I screwed up. He still loved me right where I was and still loves me right where I am. Now, I found the foundation again. I'm standing firm. But let me be clear. Just because I found that doesn't mean I don't struggle. Just because we're Christians doesn't mean we don't sin. It's not all rainbows, sunshine, and lollipops. You know? My relationships still find struggle, but I have a foundation to lean back on. I have prayer to guide me, Jesus to guide me. I'm going to tell you a parable. Matthew 7:24-27. My alt kids will know this is what I do. Most kids don't know what a parable is. So a parable is a story that Jesus told. He used these parables to make it a little bit easier to understand what he was teaching because his teachings were very foreign than what they knew at that time. His parables are recorded in 4 Gospels of the Bible. Gospels are books of the Bible that are written by Jesus' disciples being the guys that followed right along with him. So these are first-hand accounts of the stories and the teachings and the miracles and the lessons and the behaviors of Jesus, including his death. Those 4 Gospels are Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and I make up the 4 first books of the New Testament. So here we are. Matthew 7:24-27. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and acts on them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain fell, the rivers rose, and the winds blew and pounded that house. Yet it did not collapse, because its foundation was built on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and doesn't act on them will be like the foolish man who built his house on the sand. Verse 27. The rain fell, the rivers rose, the winds blew and pounded that house. It collapsed. It collapsed with a great crash. The foundation built upon Jesus Christ does not crumble, does not fall. When the storms of life come, the house will shake. And it might get battered, and it might lose a few shingles, but the foundation stands strong. The church has a crucial job to invest in our youth, to build a strong foundation in Jesus Christ, to model, to develop, encourage, teach them to become fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ. So what does that look like? Raise your hand if you were ever a kid. What? Online? Tell me, yeah, I was a kid. All right, yeah. If you raised your hand and you're a Christian, you have the awesome opportunity, privilege, and I think responsibility to invest in these kids because they are our next generation. They are our future. They are our hope. If you're an investor, you know there's different levels of investment, right? So each level of investment is important and each gives its own kind of return. Low investment is where I'm going to start with how you all can invest in these kids. Low investment is the ones that I'm looking for that say, I don't like kids. Kids are not my jam. I don't want nothing to do with that. You're in luck, because there are still ways that you can invest in our kids. This is just by coincidence, but with VBS coming up, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes work to do. Decorating, painting boxes, doing some legwork, that Amazon wish list I had talked to you guys about a few times before, and announcements. Those are all ways that you can invest in our kids without directly being involved with our kids. If you like to cook, there's always an opportunity to feed somebody here that is serving our kids. VBS, we do like to provide those volunteers a meal before they start. It's a great way to give to our kids. If you're at the grocery store and you think, I can get an extra case of water or an extra few bags of chips or whatever it may be, we will gladly take them, and it's a perfect way to invest to these youth. Another way is this short-minute conversations. My lefty-loosey, righty-tighty guy. I don't know, it's like 30 seconds. Small, low investment risk that whisks me right back every time. There's medium investment. This is for those of you that are unable to commit to a monthly commitment to serving our kids. Maybe you can give those 4 nights in that week of VBS to serve with our kids. It's signing up to walk in the parade with us, or a couple hours at the fun fair running a game that we work with the community on. It's dressing up as an Easter bunny for a couple hours, or Santa for a couple hours. Those are all small, medium risk investments that can make quite an impact, because when we're in these moments, we have the opportunity to show the love of Jesus Christ exude from you because you are a Christian. You can't help it. It just comes out. And in these times, it's the perfect way to give that to our kids. Small interactions only take moments of time, but they can last a lifetime. All right, high-risk investment. Dun, dun, dun. High-risk investment has the highest return on investment, not only for those that you're investing in, but you as the investor. This is the commitment of 2 hours a month, 2 hours a month to lead Bridge. Those are the 5th and 6th graders, where my buddy Ron is back there doing it. This is 2 to 4 hours a month to hang out with me on a Wednesday night and interact with these kids. I promise I won't make you teach the first time, but probably the second. I'm kidding, I won't. But it is giving that time just to be there to interact with them, play some games. Or it's chaperoning one of the events that the Alt is doing this summer. This is so cool. We're going to the Kingfish game. I mean, what more way fun to do that with the kids and then also get some good entertainment? It's win-win, win-win, guys. It's also investing in taking the time to bring someone alongside of you. One of our youth, bring them alongside of you. And what do I mean by that? I mean, Vic, who is out there in the lobby making coffee and donuts, more times than not, you'll see him have a youth back there with him, because he's taking the time to show them how to make coffee, how to interact with an adult. And I don't even think he knows the investment he's making in these kids. If you're working hospitality and you see one of our youth just hanging out on the couch, or there's a couple of them in the corner doing their thing, ask them if they want to greet people as they walk in the door. Show them how we extend love to those walking in our doors. Show them what it's like to love, accept, forgive, and not cast judgment. And in these interactions, it's such a perfect time to be able to have a conversation with them that shows them that they also are loved and respected and wanted and important in this space. I'm going to tell you some things that I've learned in a high investment with these kids. I've learned I am old. I am old, like really old. I'm not as old as all of you in this room, but I'm old to them. That made turning 40 this year really hard. I am not cool. As much as I think I'm cool, I mean, I have fun hair, I'm loud, I got a big personality, I'm not cool. I don't say the right things, I don't know the right lingo, they're trying to teach me, I'm having a hard time. I give up. Teens, love anything flaming hot on the label or taki on the label. There can never be enough. But I can tell you, they don't like corn nuts. Right, AJ? Y'all don't like corn nuts. I bought some corn nuts, they're still sitting there. There can never, ever, ever be enough drinks or snacks. Y'all that have raised teens or have teens in your house, there's never enough food. Right? Never enough. I can't tell you the amount of soda, water, juice boxes, chips, cookies, candy, s'mores, ice cream, the list goes on. I can't keep up that I had to start making a quota of this is what we put out today, guys. This is it. This is all you get. Because they would eat everything I have. I've learned that deodorant is vitally important, especially to young men and women who are having hormonal changes. It's important, guys. I have learned so much more about the Bible, about Jesus' teachings, and the unconditional love in 1 year than I have ever learned in my 40. And that is an awesome privilege. I have learned that there is nothing more rewarding than earning the trust of a youth. And I mean that, earning. You earn that. I have learned, more so it is confirmed, that God will use the messy, the broken, the hurt to advance his kingdom in ways we cannot imagine. Because 10 years ago, guys, that girl was not this girl. Because I could come back to my foundation and I could advance his kingdom and live through him because I was given grace. Youth are hard. I will not sugarcoat that. They are hard. I am constantly checking myself because it would be so easy for me to snap back at them when they say something that is out of line, or they give me some major attitude, or even, and happens, hurts my feelings. But we must remember that we don't know what they're going through. Kids are complicated, even more complicated than when you and I were kids. The amount of things they are exposed to is heartbreaking and foreign to us because we didn't have the same challenges they do. Kids have so many feelings and emotions, and most of the time they just want love and attention. And so what better place to find unconditional love and attention than in their church among their family? Let me close where I started. Proverbs 22:6. Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. This verse is important. I'm going to read it again. Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will return from it. They will not turn from it. The way this verse is talking about, the way is Jesus. Just like all of us, they may run from him. They will struggle. But the foundation of the gospel of Jesus Christ must be poured into these kids like a flood of love, acceptance, and forgiveness. Showing them the foundation that will stand the test of their struggles. Struggles, you guys, the struggles they are facing are some we could have never dreamed of. School shootings, suicide among their friends, quick and easy access to drugs and alcohol, violence, hatred, sexual confusion, relational trauma, and drama. Truth is, what we see in our culture today, let's face it, our generations have allowed it to happen. And church, it is time we step in the gap and invest in these amazing kids, the foundation that never breaks and brings the healing they need. The rain fell, the rivers rose, and the winds blew and pounded that house, yet it did not collapse because its foundation was built on the rock. That rock is the power of Jesus Christ, the power and presence of the Holy Spirit in our lives. Jesus went to the cross and died a gruesome, horrific, painful death to give us freedom, to set us free from our sins, from our shame, from our guilt. And in return, commands us to love God and to unconditionally love others. Our youth are exactly who He is including, and they will continue to extend love for the generations to come because we have taken the time to invest in them. I challenge you, my friends, to invest time and resources into our next generation because they are so worth it.